Probably not.
現地時間1月28日に、米野球専門 YouTube チャンネルファールテリトリーにゲスト出演したドジャースのマックス・マンシー選手が大谷選手について語っている様子をご紹介します。
Did you happen to catch Shohei Ohtani's MVP acceptance speech? Any parts of it?
I did not, no.
Okay, well, when you go back and check it out, because he did it all in English and he did a very good job, fans have been clamoring. They're like, we rarely get to hear Shohei speak, let alone in English. How is his English? And what is the one thing that you guys get on him for when he's speaking English to you guys? And because you've said it multiple times, he's very comfortable. He usually speaks English. He rarely uses an interpreter in the clubhouse. And he didn't use an interpreter when he got his MVP award.
Well, he can speak baseball very, very good. But speaking baseball and speaking just normally is two different things. And, in terms of like a speech, he obviously had time to practice that. He knew what he was going to say. That's a different story than if he's doing an interview with, where questions are coming at him that he doesn't know what's going to be said. In the clubhouse, he obviously speaks, good English. Cause like I said, he can speak baseball very, very well. It's always been cool to see him interact with teammates. Cause he really tries. He definitely really tries. He's not a guy that just says, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'm not going to try to learn." He really tries to learn what his teammates are saying, and he tries to interact. And that's always been a cool thing for me to see is that he cares. He cares enough about his teammates that he wants to learn how to communicate with them.
I need to ask you a question. Do you have a selfie with Shohei?
No, I try not to bother him with that kind of stuff.
I got one. I got one at the awards on the stage. Shohei, I was nervous as crap. John Franco, I don't know if you know John Franco, the old pitcher for the Mets legend, was sitting next to me, and Shohei was up on the stage at the awards. And John's like, "You think he'll take a picture?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let's go together. He won't say no to both of us, will he?" And so we just kind of ran up there real fast, and we got him real quick, John and I. Hey. And so now the next question is, if I bring a copy of that to spring training, will he sign it for me?
Probably not. No, I mean, like I said, all my teammates, they get bugged so much with that kind of stuff that I've never tried to be one to ask them for anything.
Listen, Max, it was a once in a lifetime shot, so I took the shot. Okay, just because.
You have to.
Yeah, there it is. There you go. Look, I mean, when are you going to get a picture with you and Shohei and tuxedo? I mean, that was my shot, so I took it. I took my shot.
And you're dressed up nice. It's going to look good hanging up in the office, right?
Right now, just think if I sign it, it goes down in value. If he signs it, it goes like way up in value. Even if he writes to AJ, I can take a little something and wipe that off with. Man, I could sell that for like $1.
Well, I wouldn't put that out there for him to hear. You're going to wipe off.
First of all, I would never do any of that. So let's just understand. I would never do any of that. I just want people to know that.
Max, who gets bothered the most? There are many famous teammates at this point. Who gets bothered the most for requests, photos, whatever else that pops up at the ballpark each day?
Yeah, I mean, it shows probably the top, but it's tough to pick from all my teammates. I know Kirsch got bugged a lot last year because when it became known that it was his last year, the requests started flooding in. Guys wanted, they tried to get a jersey or a ball or just, anything. So I know he got bogged down quite a bit towards the end of the year last year. But yeah, show's probably at the top.
ご視聴いただきありがとうございました。今後も大谷選手や MLB 日本人選手の情報を発信していきますので、チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いします。